Hello, everybody. Welcome to End Times Talk, and good evening to you all. I hope you guys are having an okay evening. I have a lot of information to go over here tonight, showing people the weight, I think, of what's actually coming. That's something that I have a hard time relaying sometimes when I do these lives is how much is actually about to happen. And I put together a lot of information and things like that. And so, with that being said, there was a protest today. Give me a moment here. There was a protest today where, hold on, I'm trying to get this stuff all set up here, where there were two Muslim men that made a homemade bomb and the detonator failed to ignite. I absolutely believe this is an act of God. All right. It was packed with nuts and bolts. Okay. And so I'm going to show you that clip now. Hold on one second. Let me make sure that this is as big as it possibly can be. All right. Here we go. And you can see they have the device in their hands and they're trying to light it. And you saw the smoke from the ignition, and then now everybody's going to attack these guys. So, and then they released a statement. All right, you seen that video, and they released a statement here. Hold on, I'm just trying to narrow information down here. Hold on one moment. Okay, give me a moment here. And here is the statement for that event from law enforcement.
At approximately 12:38 p.m., a counter-protester identified as Amir Balat, an 18-year-old man, lit and threw an ignited device toward the protest area, landing in the crosswalk of East 87th Street and East End Avenue. Witnesses reported seeing flames and smoke as it traveled through the air before it struck a barrier and extinguished itself a few feet from police officers. Mr. Balat then ran southbound on East End Avenue toward 86th Street and gets a second device from a man tentatively ID'd as Ibrahim Nick, 19 years old. Mr. Balat lights the device and starts running with it. He then drops the device on the west side of East End Avenue between East 86th and East 87th Streets. Officers immediately secured the area and they took both men into custody. This was all captured on NYPD Argus camera. The bomb squad responded and examined the devices. Based on preliminary examination and X-ray imaging, the devices, which were a bit smaller than a football, appear to be a jar wrapped in black tape, importantly with nuts, bolts, and screws, along with a hobby fuse that could be lit. At this time, we do not yet know whether the devices were...
So they cut that a little short, and I don't know why, but at this time, I'm sure they're going to say they're not sure exactly what's going on with the devices, okay? But, with that being said, all right, there was another event that took place today on a flight from London to Glasgow over in Europe, all right? And give me a moment here. I'm going to share it real quick. Because remember, there's tons of NATO people getting involved in this. So this is I think has to do with everybody now. This isn't just America that's going through this. We just had that event in Austin, Texas, where this guy that was a pro-Muslim, he had a shirt that said "Property of Allah" on a sweatshirt, and then the T-shirt underneath had an Iranian flag on it. and he pulled up next to a bar in Texas and was discharging his pistol from his SUV when he stopped in front of the bar. The reason they chose the bar because for them, alcohol in their terms is like a blasphemy. It's considered what they call harem, all right, or harem. So they will target bars and things like that, places that they disagree with. And so then after he discharged his pistol, he got out with an AR-15 rifle and he started to shoot people in the bar. There was it was either 3 or 4 people that were killed, and then there was 15 people injured in this attack in Austin, Texas. There was an event that took place in I think it's Cincinnati, Ohio, at a concert venue. I haven't heard too much news after that about that event. But then there was also a woman who was attacked on a highway in Washington, D.C., and her dog were stabbed to death. The reason I believe that they're not telling the public that it was a Muslim, a radical Muslim, is the reason that I believe it is because of the dog being stabbed. Muslims hate dogs. They see them as unclean. And they're really going after dogs in like New York and stuff, saying people shouldn't own them and have them in their homes and things like that. So it's really sad because here in America we're dog lovers. But with that being said, over in Great Britain, this happened on a plane. Like I said, it was going from London to Glasgow today.
Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Oh my God. Sit down. Don't move.
So, I mean, here's the thing. So, this seems to be a growing trend, and regardless of whatever call has been made out to sleeper cells and the like, there can be lone wolf attackers out there, okay, and it's a more serious situation than it looks. And the thing is that the way I've kind of explained it to people is look at what happened to Israel on October 7th. One day they woke up and everything changed, and it started off early in the morning, and it kind of happened throughout the day. There was even parts of Israel that were unaware that it was going on. And then, the only way they found out was because, they seen it take place in front of them. There wasn't some, broadcast across TV or cell phones for everybody to take shelter and seek safety. You know what I mean? And these things can be being done by the Illuminati, the shadow government, the globalists, whatever. Okay. But they want this chaos. They want this disorder. They want these attacks to take place because then they can start taking our freedoms away from us. Like I've said before about many situations, it's not about the method. It's about the end game. It's about getting us to Agenda 2030 to where they have everything under lock and key. So with that being said, and I gotta bring it up again. Unfortunately, I don't want to do it, but because of what I'm about to show you, it's important. This document that I've talked about before, talks about how the Illuminati is going to unleash nihilists and the atheists during a World War III scenario between the Muslim world and the state of Israel. And during that time, they're causing division across the globe, and they want the nihilists and the atheists, which are like your Antifa especially, your multiple lettered communities that just want to destroy society as the way that it sits. There's lots of trans shooters that have been going out and getting busy, trying to destroy things and kill people. All right, and it seems like a common occurrence out there. All right, now here's the thing. All right, a nihilist is someone who doesn't believe life has any meaning. They're godless commies. They believe in Darwinism, survival of the fittest, if it feels good, do it, they don't believe life has any value. And this is really kind of the core of Antifa. And there's even other groups that have infiltrated things like Antifa, like what I've dubbed as satanic accelerationist groups like the 764, the Order of the Nine Angles, the Maniac Murder Club, that exist all over the globe, and they have networks all over the globe. And these neo-Nazi groups and things like that have infiltrated Antifa, and they use Antifa kind of like a front, the same way the Illuminati use Freemasonry all across the board. Now, with that being said, all right, you have these infiltrations that take place, but also just the ideologies of Antifa itself. They want to see the downfall of society. It's just a repackaging of an anarchist, really. It's no different. These anarchists, they want to see the fall of the government. They want to see the fall of society. And in a lot of these groups that have infiltrated Antifa, they're apocalyptic. They believe in spilling the blood of innocent people in the streets in order to actually release demons into our plane of existence to accelerate the end times apocalypse. Is what a lot of these people believe, like the 764, the Order of the Nine Angles, and so on and so forth. Okay, so there's multiple facets to these things. You even have satanic groups like what they call Discordianism, and their whole religion is to sow discord, to sow destruction. They worship the god Eris, the goddess Eris, where it's all about destruction and division and all this stuff. Discord. All right, and so all these groups are working together with the terrorists, with the cartels, and all this stuff, and they're becoming a formidable force. So, again, the Illuminati wants to release these groups into society, the terrorists, the cartel members, and you saw it happen in Mexico. You've seen it happen in Israel on October 7th. It's no different what's going on right now and what's coming to America, and even different places in Europe and things like that. And I have a lot of things to show you that's proof that's going to show you on a deeper level what's actually going on, how these people are training, these groups that are operating, and they're some of this stuff is a little bit outdated as well, but it's like God just real quickly was like, gather this. And so I put this together, okay, so that way people can understand where we're at. But I believe it's actually accelerated, and it's even worse now than what it is before. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm trying to prepare people for what's ahead, because you have people that will shed innocent blood in the name of whatever belief system they have, even if that's an atheistic belief system, where you have people that just don't care about human life whatsoever, and they want to destroy everything. Anyways, with that being said, all right, they want to create what, in their own words, a social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. And so they want a civil war to come out of this while the Middle East is fighting. That's World War III. While they're fighting over in the Middle East, they want the rest of the world to a powder keg to ignite and to create a civil/revolutionary. So I call it a civolutionary war. And I'm noticing more and more of these smaller attacks beginning to take place. Where again, these two young men in New York tried to bomb a protest today. You have this event where this man is shouting that he had a bomb on the plane. Then you have the Austin, Texas attack, the Cincinnati, Ohio attack, this woman in Washington, D.C. that was stabbed to death on the highway. So there's more and more events that are popping up, and it's beginning to become more rapid. And I'm going to say this, and I know that this is a silly way to put this, but I'm a gardener, and so something that I've noticed about a harvest is there's always a trickle, and then another little trickle, and then a flood, right? And then there's a trickle, and then a trickle. So like, say for instance, say I'm growing hot peppers. I grow super hots. I grow Carolina Reapers and things like that. And I notice when I'm getting ready to take the harvest in, I notice there's a little bit few here and there. They're popping them off one or two at a time. And then all of a sudden there's 10, 15, 20. And then all of a sudden there's a couple hundred, right? There's a flood. There's a massive flood of a harvest that you take in, and then there's a few more, and then a few more, and then the harvest is done. So I think that's kind of the way I can kind of explain it to people. What I see coming is that there's these little trickle attacks, these lone wolf attacks that are taking place, but you have to understand it's not just radical Islam. Radical Islam has conscripted the leftist, okay? And I'm going to show you a video here to help you to understand that mentality.
Extremist, Islamist, fundamentalist, I would only vote left.
Why is that?
I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left, I know they have no values and no principles to begin with. I dare you to find one Islamic extremist that votes for Donald Trump. Never do it. They'd give their vote to the leftist who wants to run around in pride parades. And Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. They want them, go speak about the climate, go speak about abortion, go kill yourselves, go do that. And Amma, she's fighting for abortion rights and all the other, my body, my choice. Yes, go do that. But would she have an abortion? Never. Would she kill a Muslim in her stomach? Never.
What is the fundamentalist and jihadi agenda for America?
The future of America has to be Muslim.
So with that being said, because Muslims want to take over, there's an event coming they're believing that it's gonna pave a path for them to be able to do so. And so with that being said, all right, there is and excuse me for the heavy, I'll actually try to mute this because it's just heavy metal music, and I know some people it bothers them, but there is a group, all right, in Seattle that was developed by Alex Randall, and they're called the Moto Hooligans. And this is Alex Randall right here. And so, this is a trans, gay, activist group, and they're actively training. All right, hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. They're actively training, they might not be good at it. They might not know how to hold a weapon or anything like that and look pretty stupid in doing so, but it doesn't mean they can't take an innocent life. All right. And so this stuff exists, all right, out there, and I'm going to show you more of it. Okay. Now, you have these people that, like I said, dude, that's a good way to get your face broken, to hold a rifle like that and to shoot it. Absolutely stupid. But you kind of see, that there are people that are training for this, that are actively ready to go out and to take the life of, people that aren't in a part of their ideology. You know what I'm saying? So I really hope people understand that this is a growing issue. All right. And it's not just, the Moto Hooligans. All right. Give me a moment here. I'm going to share a video here, and these are really important videos. And I suggest if you're an American and you want to know what's going on and you want to be aware, I would watch these videos. All right. They're a little lengthy, but they're informative about how these people are operating. And I want you to listen to the intel, pay close attention to the intel that the trainers are telling these people. Read the subtitles. Make sure you're paying attention to what's being said, not just like, oh, that this is happening. You know what I mean? Pay attention to the close details of what I'm about to show you, because I doubt I'll ever even really probably show these again. This is the video where I'm trying to educate people on this.
I've been undercover with Real City Antifa since July of 2000. Depending on the setting, if I were to be caught or found out in a setting where I am present with them, it could escalate to violence against me.
Don't be that f***ing guy with the goddamn spiked brass knuckles getting photos taken of you. Police are going to be like, perfect, we can prosecute these f***ers. Look how violent they are. Right? Not that we're not, but we need to f***ing hide it.
get busy. These people will take
So
lives.
currently I am a prospect for Rose City Antifa, and I am about halfway through the prospecting process to become a full-fledged member of Antifa.
If you ruin their day, if you like heckle them, you make them feel like they look ridiculous, you make them feel outnumbered, and therefore their whole yay, yay, America, Trump thing is going to go by the wayside.
They reached out to me through Proton Mail, and we went back and forth, and there was an interview set to meet up in Portland. So to verify that it was me, they had me wear a white shirt and have a water bottle and show up at a Starbucks where a person was going to ID me and approach me and asked who I was, and I told them, and I followed them to the destination where the interview was going to be held. There, we went to a place called Imperial. They were getting this tradecraft from someone else, someone with much more experience, someone who did this for a living. Caroline, which is the founder of RCA, moved to Sweden with her husband, who is a dual citizen. So there's a back and forth with a European connection.
Rose City Antifa holds required lectures for prospecting members in secret at, in other words, bookstore before they open. And as part of their security culture, they require us to put our phones in the bathroom next door. This bathroom is not only away from the main room where the lecture is taking place, but also has a fan that muffles any sound from the room.
The whole goal of this, right, is to get out there and do dangerous things as safely as possible.
How violent is Antifa or RCA in particular?
Practice things like an eye gouge. It takes very little pressure to injure someone's eyes.
They do not hesitate to either push back or incite some kind of violence. In our classes and in our meetings, before we do any sort of demonstration or black bloc, we talk about weapons detail and what we carry and what we should have. What is black bloc? Well, this is black bloc right now. The term is used to a tactic in which individuals conceal their identity to look uniform so that no one can be identified in an act of a crime. With RCA, it seems much more structured, almost like a company or like a business. So, I feel like there is some type of outside funding, influence, or resources being used.
Consider like destroying your enemy, not like delivering a really awesome right hand, left eye blow, It's not boxing, it's not kickboxing, it's like destroying your enemy.
So you get the idea when it comes to the Rose City Antifa, which is out of Portland. All right. Now, there is also another one, and I think it's in one of the Carolinas, or it's Tennessee or something like that. But they have this other one, and I'm probably not going to show the full video because it's a little lengthier. But this one's called Redneck Revolt.
Redneck Revolt came across our radar in early 2018. We had seen some articles online about them and saw that they were sort of the militia wing of Antifa, also called the John Brown Gun Club. I reached out to the chapter in Shelby, North Carolina over Facebook Messenger, and I received a reply right away. They are Antifa in that they share the Antifa ideology. This particular group sees themselves as armed revolutionaries, and they believe in total abolition of everything, including the police. Once we were finished shooting, they needed to interview me. This was part of my initiation.
If an officer of the state came to your door and asked you questions about your political ideology and people you associate with, how would you respond?
I would say no.
If you were tabling at a gun show and someone loudly accused you of being a terrorist or part of Antifa, how would you handle it?
I probably would laugh.
So Redneck Revolt came across our radar in early 2018.
I don't think we need to see the whole thing, but it's, you know, there's quite a few of them in Redneck Revolt. All right. And you know, they have the chapter that's called Rose City Antifa. All right, and then they have this one in Brooklyn, New York, that's been documented as well.
Yeah, when I first infiltrated them, I was a little worried. They were definitely learning tactics that were not in for defense. It was definitely for offense. On the front, they would say on their website that these were defensive classes, but all the tactics they used were offensive. Their goals are the abolition of the state, to shut down prisons, abolish the ICE, the police force, and the United States government.
We just kind of want to, in the space, reframe the idea of self-defense as not simply you're being acted upon by an aggressor, but it's a kind of a decision you make to fight back. In a lot of ways to say, I'm human and I occupy this space and I'll be not We call this a safe space to practice aggression. Not aggression against one another, but really just a space that if you want to, or if you will want to challenge yourself to kind of work on harnessing that kind of energy.
The base is located in Brooklyn. It's a Antifa common space, so they use the base building for classes, fight clubs, and other meetings with Antifa.
So the idea is you step to the side, grab the person, and then slam them down. Okay? That's one way. So here's the other way. Hey, come on, choke me. You step, you grab his nuts. Or you just solidly elbow. He will let go.
Their philosophy is anything necessary. They'll use violence, they'll use any tactics to get their way to reach their political goals. So I guess in definition they would be considered terrorists. There's always a risk of getting caught in these organizations, especially when you're so close to them that they could see the wires or see if you're asking different questions.
You're trying to basically cut off both arteries.
Yeah,
So
hopefully so.
You know, squeeze.
Yeah.
So basically, imagine this is their neck. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your choking iron and you're just stick it out, palm down, like a not so cool Nazi salute. And you're just gonna curl it across. And so this point, your elbow should be right underneath their chin. And then you take your hands, you one's pointing down, one's up, both parallel to the ground. You flatten your thumbs against your fingers and clasp them like this.
It was a bit scary because what they were training to do was violence, and I was definitely in enemy territory, surrounded by 15 of them. So if I did get caught, it would definitely have ended in violence.
Yeah, it's just very... There we go again.
Given these orders already to these demonstrators to disperse, they were starting to gear up with tear gas masks.
If these current demonstrations and riots.
So I think you guys kind of get the idea, though. And, you know, the first mistake most people make is underestimating their opponent and what their opponent is willing to do. All right. And so with that all being said, All right. There's a lot of propaganda that's being put out there to recruit people like this. All right. And I'm going to show you a few of those now. And there could be glitches in the live at this point. I don't know, but it's my duty to show you. There is, and I don't think I'm going to play them just for that reason. But there's a movie called How to Blow Up a Pipeline. And it's all about these people that get together and make improvised explosive devices. And they literally, like, it's almost like they show you the method on how to make improvised explosive devices, like these Muslim guys did earlier in the video that I showed you, where they had this bomb in New York that they tried to detonate at a protest today. And these people are all like Antifa, and they all come together to destroy a pipeline. Okay. And the movie's literally called How to Blow Up a Pipeline. All right. So with that being said, there's also another one that just came out not too long ago, and it's called Athena. And I've shown you this where these revolutionaries, they these, and they're Muslims, where they are, fighting the government. All right. And, it's because, this dude's brother had been killed, supposedly by police or whatever. But actually, I'm even if you want to watch this on Netflix, plug your ears right now, because there's going to be a spoiler. But at the end of the movie, you find out that they weren't even police, that they were Aryans that killed his brother. And so it was all this like war over nothing, like people died over nothing. And so they're really promoting this revolutionary mindset. And this movie called Athena is one of them. And then you also have this one called that's more recent, that's got Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's called One Battle After Another. And he's Antifa basically. And then he retires, so to speak. All right. And you can kind of see that they like come after him, and all that stuff. And it involves his daughter, and all this stuff. But they're really promoting this ideology. There's also, hold on one second. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Let me see if I can find this. Hold on. I don't think I could find it. And it's like and I noticed, like, I've watched some of these lives where they have this music group called the Neighborhood Kids, and it's like hardcore, like, propaganda. And I'm not gonna show the whole thing, but I'll just show you like what I'm talking about. And every single time I've watched these guys out in the streets, they're playing this song. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna show it like this.
Burn the system down and start a fire. Marching down the street, seeing you invited. Hey, Nico, come outside. Fist up in the air and put it higher. We the people gotta defend the post. I just might dispose of these CEOs. They just gotta go. Republican, Democrat, this be the death of that. It's time to settle that. Molotov in my hand, make them all scared again. Collective consciousness, system to rise again.
So I mean, they're putting propaganda out there. Is the whole point, and it's like a trans group. And and I mean, he talks about, you see 187 there. He talks about 187 a piggy. And so they're talking about, killing cops and their music, defiant, it's ridiculous, the music, but they make it real catchy, especially to like the newer generation, and the way things are. But so, with all of this being said, it definitely plays back into the Albert Pike Three World War letter and the unleashing of the nihilists and the atheists, and then provoking a formidable social cataclysm which in all its whole horror will show clearly to the nations the effects of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. And you could go to almost any of my other lives. I bring this document up quite a bit because this is where we're at, and there's people that try to discredit it, and it's absolutely ridiculous, but absolutely happening the way that they planned it out. And, my point is, though, is that it's not just and again, you're seeing, trans shootings and things like that have been taking place. There was one that was just in Canada at a gym where 9 people were shot. There was this dad that was trans at a hockey game, killed his wife and killed one of his kids, and then he killed himself. And so, there's this. I mean, it's madness, absolute madness what's going on right now. And so it's not just your radical extremist Muslims that want to kill. You have other ideologies that go hand in hand with that, like I said, like the cartel, radical extremism of Islam. Because there's Muslims that don't want to fight. All right, they might not know Jesus, but they don't want to fight. They don't want to hurt people. You know what I mean? But there are people, a lot of them, that are out there to hurt people. And then you have Antifa, and then you have the 764 and all that stuff. Let me see if I can find something here. Give me a moment. Just to kind of give you an idea on how prevalent this stuff is. I'm going to share X real quick. Hold on. So, you could just type in 764, and I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. The FBI is talking about it. I've talked about it and brought it up. You can see some of my posts here. There's BX on X, and she makes documentaries about it. These are some of the guys that are about this stuff. It's very satanic. All right. And there's, a lot of people involved in it. This one's called Terror Circle, right? Hey, BX, so let's get to chatting. I'm Blade, as you know, and I run a group called Terror Circle. Yes, you may have heard of it, blah, blah, blah. All sorts of stuff. And they're saying that their Terror Circle is no 764. It's worse. Trust me, is what the guy is saying. So, this stuff's all over the place. Where the 764, the Order of the 9 Angles, things like that. Like, here's this guy, Matthew Fisher of Bangor, Pennsylvania, was arrested and federally charged this week after grooming a 13-year-old girl over Discord. And it's a pedophile satanic cult too. You know what I mean? And it's so widespread. Kash Patel's talking about how the FBI is dismantling the Satanic 764 pedophile group targeting children online. They've been preying on children 8 to 15 years old. And they sell the content. That's how they fund their operation, is pedophilia and selling the content to pedophiles. Even Alex Jones is covering the 764 right here. Satanic ritual abuse. You know what I mean? This stuff's all over the place. Just trying to give you guys an idea. So these types of people, have infiltrated Antifa. All right, and they're everywhere. It's just everywhere. America is inundated with this crap. And so, it's important to understand how far this stretches, how big this is. It's not just radical extremists. They're saying at this point 18,000 radical extremists, terrorists that are known are in this country, are in America. Okay. And so, it's evil, Evan. I don't even want to imagine what content they're sharing with each other. It's absolutely evil. A lot of it's like, self-mutilation, the killing of animals, killing of parents, murder in the streets, killing of homeless people, things like that. And they believe that every bit of bloodshed brings about the apocalypse, a demonic apocalypse. They believe they're releasing demons is their ideology. And it all kind of stems to the order of the 9 angles. Let me see here. I'll do this. Give me a moment here. And I'll try to show you. It goes even past that. Hold on. Give me a moment here. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So like, I'll show you a post here. Just trying to give you an idea of what you're facing and of what you're facing. So right here, this is a blood oath, a covenant signed in blood. It says, "May the devil walk with you always." Satana, men, blah blah blah, whatever. But you see, this is the kind of stuff that's going on. This is a blood oath that the order of the 9 angles took. You see what I'm saying? You see the 666 patches. Like, this is the stuff people are up against, and they just don't know it. The public is not aware of it. Hold on one second. But yeah, BX on X. This is BX, but the 764 is all that stuff. These people are all a part of this.
CAP is UK based, was founded in the UK back in the 1960s, I think, by a man named David Myatt. He was a long-term national socialist in the UK. What he did was he tried to co-opt this like death cult movement to build a cult, to brainwash people into fighting for national socialism, to get people.
So you kind of get the idea. I don't want to share too much of it, but you get the idea how bad and how prevalent this is. So we're not just facing, terrorist extremist Muslims, and we're not just facing cartel members and things like that, in gangs from Venezuela and Mexico and things like that. You're facing these gangs that are willing to go out and commit extremely violent acts. They just caught a group of them in the Mojave Desert that were getting ready to detonate improvised explosive devices in California. There was an attack that was planned for New York during New Year's Eve, where a guy dressed up as Santa was going to hand out, candy that was laced with poison to kids. Like this kid can, the thing is, all right. And here's the thing. It's okay for people to have an opinion, but the cocky attitude, like, just has to go. I don't, like, people coming in with their cocky attitudes and stuff like that. Like, it's just annoying to me. All right. Like, grow up, but here's the thing. So this is really prevalent. It's very expansive. And, then even on top of it, you have these racially motivated groups. And it doesn't matter who you are. There's people that hate you for the color of your skin. There is movements of Aryans that hate black people. There's movements of black people that hate white people. There's a video that I made on X that shows how bad it is on both sides on my X channel, and I could only release it there because YouTube would flag it here. So it's like there's just so much going on. And then so I've seen letters, and let me get to why I named this live. This is I've seen a letter that came out of Iran, green lighting the terrorist cells. Just because they've been greenlit doesn't mean they're all going to go out and get chitty chitty bang bang all at once. All right, and start slaughtering people all at once. But you have the green light that's already been given. Supposedly the leader of Al Qaeda gave a green light to Al Qaeda. They're saying that, and this was a while ago. This was like last year when Iran gave the call out to their sleeper cells in America. And but since with this war in Iran, these people have more and more of a reason, and the hatred is just growing and growing and growing and growing on all sides. The racially motivated hate, the religiously motivated hate, the government motivated hate, just those that just hate society and want to see the destruction of it. So there's a a very dangerous, cataclysm that's coming. And I'm going to be honest with you that it doesn't seem far off, especially with, like how we've talked about with this document about like when they say when the Muslim nations in Israel are going at it, that's World War III. And then they're saying the rest of the world is going to have to fight and defend themselves against these, what they're calling revolutionaries who want to destroy civilization. So, and so they want this war to take place, and so again, we saw this attack in Austin, Texas, the attack in Cincinnati, Ohio at the concert venue. We saw the attack of this woman and her dog being stabbed to death on the street in Washington, D.C., right on the highway. You have a man in Europe that was talking about blowing up the plane. You have these two Muslim people who are going to detonate an improvised explosive device at a protest in New York. You know what I mean? And I've shown you time and time again where you have these Antifa-like groups and things like that training. And it even goes further than that. You have cartel-based terrorist extremist groups for radical Islam where they're training people just across the border. All right. I was even looking for that information and it's poof, it's gone. But I'm promising you, like, here's the thing. And I hope people understand this about this channel. All right. I'll never lie to you. All right. I'll never lie to you. All right. Everything I'm sharing with you is the solid facts and what to expect, what's to come. Okay. So when I tell you I saw something, I promise you I saw it. But the internet has a habit of erasing information. If you don't save it right there and then, poof, it's gone. I'm telling you. All right. So what I'm trying to say is that, even, Laura Hyatt was sharing with me, she saw some information and we just could not find it. She was trying to find it for me. And she said that she saw where there was a video out there where, Iran has greenlit the terror sleeper cells in America. And then you're just seeing this incrementation of it amping up, becoming more and more of a problem. You know what I'm saying? And so my point is, all right, is that we have got to be on guard. Okay, we've got to be on guard. I've made videos on what kind of attacks to expect. It was just a couple of lives ago too. Just go back into my live section on my YouTube, and I did a whole entire breakdown of what areas are more vulnerable, how to defend yourself, what you can do, different things to have at least a game plan, to create a game plan, because I'm telling you, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. All right. And so the thing is, you've had all these experts that's come out like Sarah Adams and, other people. And I can't sit here and name them all. The names surpass me right now. But all sorts of people have been coming out and warning that these terror cell activations and attacks are imminent. And then they're saying, what I've heard, and these people that have, like Sarah Adams, who have infiltrated these groups, they're saying that they're planning a 9/11 style attacks that's, more than 3 times worse. They're saying 3 times worse or whatever. But then while that's happening, they're going to unleash all of these people. We'll say the 18,000 terrorists that are there. They'll always keep a few sleeper cells because they want some, soldiers on the ground, if you will. Okay. But, they plan to enact this attack. And the first phase is attacks all over the place. They'll probably pick anywhere from 10 to 15 states. And then they'll have, anywhere from 2 to 10 man teams that'll go into certain areas out of these 18,000 terrorists. And then they're going to start to commit acts of violence. All right. And so the point is that there's a phase 1. That's phase 1 of their plan. Phase 2 is they want to attack the emergency workers and things like that. And they want to attack, the hospitals and things like that. They want to go after our infrastructure. They want to completely decapitate the emergency response in our nation. and they want to create as much havoc as possible. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but I would even be prepared for them to go into schools and things like that. We've already seen plenty of school shootings take place. And have you noticed there's kind of like a lull in that? They're not happening as much. Is because I really think a lot of these people, and with the research I've been doing in MK Ultra and child trafficking and exposing these pedophile satanic death cults that exist all the way from the lower end all the way to the top, okay, that a lot of these shooters are actually MK Ultra victims, even though what they're doing is absolutely satanic and evil. All right, and they deserve to be thrown into a wood chipper for what they've done, but they're victims themselves. Okay. And I have people that have intel that even talks about how a lot of these radical extremist Muslims are victims of MK Ultra. And so, but those people that have dissociative identity disorder, they will take a life quicker than abracadabra if they're not deprogrammed, and if they don't, especially if they don't have Jesus. Okay, so my point is that there is a plethora of problems brewing, and there's one man that kind of summed up all of it that's coming. And there's people that believe this is going to happen in the Great Tribulation. There's people that think that this is going to happen before. I'm in the school of thought that we're going to see trickles of this, and we're going to see an amplification of this before we go home in the pre-tribulation rapture. And the Great Tribulation is when this mass amount of violence is going to take place. All right. But I'm on the side of the coin that we have to prepare for everything. And with that being said, I want you to listen to what Russ Dizzar had to say.
What is the Black Awakening? It's related to the Red Horse prophecy revelation. It's related to 2 Thessalonians 2, when it says about the day of the Lord, the parousia. That day will not occur until the apocalypse of the Antichrist and the apostasia, the word rebellion or revolt. That's all really defined in the prophecy of the Red Horse. But here's where the term came from and why I used it purposely. When I started dealing with military-oriented, highly trained, programmed and assassins inside of them.
At a flick of a switch, we can adjust character, change personality. These are not supposed to exist. Raymond Prentice Shaw. Listen.
This is a coup. This is rich people funding bad science to put us people in the White House. When we made a deal with them, I dealt with someone from Fort Bragg for quite a while and a few others. We were sitting in a lake, Conneaut Lake. They reached over and ripped open my shirt to see if I was wired, if I was wiring and recording them. And they were the most sophisticated satanic warrior type person. They knew 5-6 languages. They knew the ancient Twilight languages. They knew how to conjure. They knew how to use Belteshazzar, Okwam, all these old Pictish languages of the Druids to summon. They are the real Luciferian. They've been through many human sacrificial things. So they sat there to tell me some of those things, what they've been involved with, how they sacrifice a human. I'm listening to all this stuff from them. And then they said to me, you have no idea, Russ, how many of us there are out there. How many satanic, they use the term, chosen ones. You have no idea how many. You have no idea what's coming. We smell Christian blood. We are waiting for our day. And when the call is given, millions of us will be released.
So you kind of get the idea of what Russ is saying. And Russ was very influential, and this is why he had the means to be able to talk to people like this. Now, I'll tell you this much, okay? And I'm leveling with you here. I know someone who was being trained to be one of these satanic super soldiers to go out and kill, all right, but found Jesus, okay? And I can't divulge their personal information, okay, because I've not been given permission to do so. And but this person will speak openly about it, that this is what was happening to them. And they were being groomed since childhood through, sexual abuse, things like that. Even, as far as like, oh man, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to say something too graphic here, but like they made him believe that he had just mentally blown up the heart of his own grandfather. And one of the people that was involved in this was the mortician, the morgue, the guy who worked at the morgue in the area. And they took him to show him his grandfather's body, and they showed him how his heart had been exploded. Now, my friend believes that it could have been a psychological trick where they used a frequency or something like that, or even a chemical to um, destroy the heart of his grandfather, to make him think that he mentally did it. But they were preparing him emotionally and mentally to do those things. Okay. And so there, I got to be real careful here. There was a ritual that took place where Jesus had spared my friend from that which was about to happen to him. And we'll just leave it there. Okay. But, in my endeavors in getting into this stuff to expose this stuff, you would not begin to believe the things I have to hear, the things I've seen, the things the tears that I've heard being shed over the phone, the emails that I get. And this is so prevalent. And Darian, Rain knows exactly what's going on. I know she's talking in the live chat, and she's someone that I've talked to about this stuff. And there's so much going on all across the board. And MK Ultra, and I'm using that as an umbrella term. There's Project Artichoke, there's Project Monarch, there's Project Gate, and so on and so forth. But I say MK Ultra as an umbrella term, but MK Ultra is so prevalent, and they're creating these super soldiers and these assassins, and they're using trauma. A lot of what, like, say, Project Monarch was about was causing dissociative identity disorder, what is formerly known as split personality disorder. A lot of people will say someone with split personality disorder or DID as demons. They don't. Their mind is fracturing to handle the trauma and the pain and the sorrow that they've experienced. And so the mind fractures, so that way the human mind is protecting itself. Okay, it's protecting itself. All right. So that way when there's an event happening, they have a different place to go in their mind. Okay. And I know this, I've been learning about this stuff, and you just would not begin to believe the science behind this stuff. In fact, a lot of the new stuff that's coming out in the new documentary I'm making, all right, is gonna shed some light on some of the science behind this stuff and how they actually go about programming somebody on a whole nother level. I've never seen anything put out there like what I'm about to put out there. I'm gonna be honest with you, all right? Because I'm not scared of them. They don't scare me, all right? Absolutely, they don't terrify me one bit. Even if I was, and I, God forbid, lose my life tomorrow or whenever, all right, I know where I'm going when I die. But it's my job to inform people of what's really going on behind the scenes and show people how bad this crap truly is. And to everybody who's thanking me and things like that in the live chat, I appreciate you a lot. Thank you, Bride of Christ. I appreciate your comment. And so it's important for us to see what we're facing or what we could face. I pray that we don't face it. I pray that the rapture happens in 10 seconds and we go home to be with the Lord. But I believe in praying for the best, but preparing for the worst. Okay. And we don't know when we're going home. And Jesus did say there would be persecution, and there would be, over in Nigeria and Sudan and Syria and China and Iran, Christians are being killed all the time. Okay. And so Americans, unfortunately, and even not even so much Europeans anymore, because they're getting slaughtered for their beliefs too, and in prison for their beliefs too. But really, it's America that has this mindset that's like an untouchable mindset. Like, just because they're American, that the things that are happening all across the globe are impossible to happen here. I could tell you a few stories that would change your mind on that, but they're just too gruesome. All right. But let me tell you, martyrdom has been going on, and it continues to go on, and it will continue to go on until Jesus comes back to get us in a pre-tribulation rapture. I'm hardcore pre-tribulation rapture believer, but I'm a realist. I'm someone who believes that we don't know the day and the hour. All right. And so I want to inform people what they can expect so that way they know how to handle whatever situation they're in. Don't unnecessarily put yourself in danger. Don't go out and protest. Stay home and protect your family. Okay? Stay home. God bless you, Darian. I hope you have a great night. But stay home and protect your family. Don't be going out and getting all willy-nilly with all these idiots that are out there doing stupid crap. Be as wise as a serpent, but as harmless as a dove. All right. And I'll be honest with you, man. Do what you got to do to protect your family, but don't go out looking for trouble, because if you go out looking for trouble, you're going to find it. My mama told me back in the day when I was living a really reckless lifestyle, she says, son, if you're going to play around in the devil's playground, you're going to get burned. I warn you, son, you're going to get burned. And man, my mama was right. She always seemed to be right. You know, she is in tune with God. And man, I'm telling you, I wish I would have listened a whole lot more, because it would have saved me a lot of heartache and a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And that's all I'm trying to do here, is to save you heartache, pain, and suffering that is not necessary. Okay. And if we know about something, we can pray about it. We can take it to our Heavenly Father. We can take it to Jesus. We can take it to the Holy Spirit. And we can say, hey, look, you know, God, this stuff's going on and I'm concerned about it. What can I do? You know, God, help me, protect me, be my shelter in the storm. Let me abide under the shadow of your wings. You know, Psalm 91, praying Psalm 91 over you and your family. You know what I'm saying? Especially over your children. Your children are under attack, especially in those video game, realities and realms. All right. So it's important to understand that we're up against the wall here, and the Satan is travailing and he's kicking like a child, wham, 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 because he knows his time is short. All right. And he's going to throw every single punch that he possibly can out there, because he wants to destroy mankind. He wants you to not make it to the finish line. And you know, a couple of the goals of End Times Talk that I've set out to do is, one, firing people up to go out there and evangelize and make disciples out of all creatures, and to fulfill the commission Jesus gave us before he ascended into heaven. And then two, all right, to pray diligently, all right, and have a relationship with Jesus Christ, not just be a fan, but to be a follower. Number three, preparing for all scenarios, because we don't know, only God knows. All right. So we know a pre-tribulation rapture is imminent, but we don't know when it's going to happen. And heck, you could be going to the store tomorrow and some dude could come in with an AR with the way society's going right now. So I want you to be ready for all scenarios, you know. And number four, fellowship, to be a place where we can come, be peaceful with each other. It's not a place where like you can go teaching and things like that, but if you have something constructive to add to what's already being said, that's what this place is for. It's not for, you know, excuse my language here, it's not for smart asses to come in and flex their knowledge. Go start a YouTube channel. There's plenty of people, I'm sure, that'll listen to what you have to say. This isn't the place for that. This isn't a place for you to promote your YouTube channel. This isn't a place for you to promote other YouTube channels, you know, things like that. I have to be a good shepherd and flock, a good shepherd of what God has set before me. Now, I don't own anybody. People have their free will. Go do as you please. All right. Whatever you find is whatever you're going to find. But I am not going to allow someone that's, say, a Seventh-day Adventist or a Mormon or a Jehovah's Witness or even a Satanist to infiltrate our group and to stir people to join them and to pull them out of this group that we have here and to lead them astray. I'm a diligent warrior, and you know, God gives some of his greatest battles to some of his strongest warriors. And so also number five, to expose pedophilia and the satanic death cult that exists in every form that exists. While I have breath in my body, I will do so. So those are really the five main goals. And there's little ones here and there that I could add on later on, but those are really the five main goals of this channel and this ministry, all right, to accomplish while I'm here on this earth. Okay, and it's going to expand. It expands. People become fighters, and they become ready, and they become roaring lions, and the bravery. I've seen people just change, after watching my channel, and God just firing them up for a fight, a spiritual fight. And that's what I want to see happen. I'm not here to scare people. I'm here to prepare people. And the world we live in is a fallen creation. And so it's important that we address all these subjects and these topics together, and we take them on head on. We don't let the enemy put fear into us and, I just can't hear about this. It's just too much. I understand, but listen, I know it's a lot. It's a lot for me. Trust me. Trust me, it's a lot for me to go through the things that I go through, to expose the pedophile cults and things like that. And to hear people, you would not begin to believe the amount of people that contact me in private, in email, and say, I'm a victim of sexual abuse. I was abused as a child. I've even had youngsters that are like, 16, 17, 18, get a hold of me like I'm being abused. What do I do? You know what I mean? And you got to give them advice. They're not willing to give you information of who they are, so you can call the police, because you could be putting them in danger. But you pray and you seek out God. I have grown women that get a hold of me all the time like I was a victim. It's just tore me up inside. I get other women that'll contact me. Josh, thank you for exposing pedophilia and exposing these networks and doing what you can do in your area. You know what I mean? Because it gives me a sense of vigilante justice. It gives me a sense of vindication. You know what I mean? There's a lot of women that come forward and are like, man, Josh, thank you for doing this. I feel, that someone is fighting for us, and there's even men that have contacted me, men that have been victims of Masonic ritual abuse and Satanic ritual abuse that have contacted me. You just not begin to believe the things I hear behind the scenes, and you would not begin to believe the things that are done in this ministry behind the scenes. You can ask, Kevin Thomas or Laura Hyatt or anybody that knows me personally. And I'm telling you, I'm diligently at my computer all the time. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I got back problems because I'm sitting at this computer too much, fighting and trying to do what I can while I have time to do it. All right. And so, I'm working on this documentary, and I've been trying to raise funds for it, and I've been diligently, investigating this thing, and I've come up with some crazy stuff. And here's the thing: I was talking to another sister in Christ, who was a victim, and I've been given permission to talk about this. I have a woman I'm working with that's a victim of a cult out west, we'll say, and it's very credible. And she even sent me the cult's, documents and doctrines. I mean, I literally have a stack of books that I was sent from this cult. And I mean, you would not begin to believe how thick this thing is. It's got to be 6 inches thick of books from this cult. So I can help her and start to dig this thing apart, because it has Freemasonry ties, it has Mormon ties, and it's one of these polygamy cults, and she's really going through it. And so that's something, I'll help a lot of people. There's even parents that I've helped try to help locate their children. I do everything I can behind the scenes. You know what I mean? There's a lot more things that are going on with End Times Talk than just the lives that we do here. I'll be honest with you, and I don't mean to get emotional here, but I feel just run ragged and drugged through the dirt, and I could really use prayers. And I'm not wanting to be like, please pray for me, because I'm usually the one that's praying for people. Now, there's some people, that are like, they ask for prayer, and they're just compulsive about asking for prayer and becoming the center of attention. I think there's some people that have things going on upstairs, where, they're really suffering mentally upstairs, and they're asking for prayer for like really silly things that God can take care of, or that aren't a big deal. And they'll like interrupt the live and try to be center stage and stuff. Like that stuff, does kind of bug me. But like when someone's genuine and they're like, "Will you please pray for me? I'm going through something here, and I'm hurting." I mean, I'll stop everything I'm doing, even alive, and we'll pray with people. Or I get an email where someone's asking for prayer, or I'll get a comment where someone's asking for prayer, and you can ask Laura or Kevin. I talk to Laura and her husband Kevin all the time on the phone. They're kind of like a spiritual mom and dad to me because I don't have a mom and dad. And the thing is that like, they see where I'll be like, all right, hey guys, hold on, I gotta pray for somebody real quick. But like I just feel like a wishbone that's two-legged that's being tugged in 20 different directions. I'm trying to be a husband. I'm trying to be a father. I'm trying to be a good dog dad to my fur baby, Nuke. I try to take care of the household. I try to keep End Times Talk running. I'm trying to investigate these pedophilic satanic death cults and the networks that have not been exposed. I'm trying to expose new networks and bring new things to light. I'm calling people and trying to fellowship with people. People are calling me needing fellowship. You know what I mean? And there's like with like say for like the instance where like I talked to Laura and Kevin, it's so nice to have friends that just want to joke around. And because it's refreshing for me. I love to laugh. I love to joke around. And it's nice to have friends that I can call up and it's not heavy and all that stuff because everything in my life is heavy. All right. And then I got people that attack me all the time. I get death threats. I got people slandering me all over online that don't even know me. They don't know me from Adam. They think they know me, but they don't. I got people in comment section on lives on other channels, bad mouthing me and all that stuff. They don't even know who I am. They don't know my heart. You know what I'm saying? And so like it's just like I feel so overwhelmed. And then I'm constantly looking out my windows. I constantly have strange people going by my house. I constantly have cars stopping in front of my house. You can ask Laura Hyatt and Kevin Thomas. They've been on the phone with me when I got people pulling up in front of my house and just sitting there in a vehicle. You know what I'm saying? And my phone goes haywire. I just had to switch phones. I have a filming phone that I use for my documentaries, and I had to take my SIM card out of my actual phone that I use for phone calls and put it into my phone for my documentaries. And it sucks because I need that for my documentaries. But and I don't like to have a mobile network when I'm filming because I don't want what I'm doing out there per se, or have the having access Wi-Fi or mobile network access to what I'm doing. But I couldn't receive calls and I couldn't send out calls all of a sudden. I could do it with text and things like that. But it's like I'm just under the gun and all these different angles. And it's just like, and then, at the end of the day, when my wife comes home from work, I try to sit down and watch a movie or two with her, So I mean, I get that a little bit of downtime, but it's like, whew, God, I need energy, Lord. I'm not running dry here. I promise. You know, and I gotta say, I appreciate the financial support. I appreciate most of all the prayers. I appreciate the encouraging comments. I appreciate those who stand up for me on other channels when they see me getting bad mouthed. You know what I mean? Like very rarely do I'm around, but very rarely do I see people that will stand up for me. And there's some really cool people out there that actually would go to bat for me. You know what I'm saying? And it just those kind of things, they're encouraging. And like when I'm struggling financially and all of a sudden there's 10 or 20 bucks in my PayPal, and I feel it's like a faith builder for me. It's like, God's like saying, I see you, Josh. I see what you got going on. I know your needs. I'm going to take care of you. And then when people pray for me, like when, I'm feeling like I'm up against a giant, I could just feel spiritually like the Lord giving me a touch because people are interceding for me, and interceding for my safety. You know what I mean? And I mean, I've even been told, like I've even had people tell me they're going to burn my family alive. I've had people try to get the IRS after me. I've had people report, like call the attorney general in my state to try to cause trouble for me. I've had people try to call my wife's work and get her fired from her job. I mean, what I'm up against is unreal. And the thing is, is this is how I know I have an effective ministry and I'm making an impact in people's lives because of the hardships that I'm going through and because of the pain and the suffering that I'm going through. All right. And so it's one of those situations where, like, just every little bit of encouragement helps. I just want to let people know that every little bit of prayer helps, even if it's a 10-second prayer. Josh, or God, please be with Josh and what he's going through right now. Amen. Just even those little things, they help me. It helps me get by because, man, I don't know too many channels. I know a few. That'll step up to the plate because, I mean, it's batter up time. Like, there's so many channels that are so watered down. They're so watered down. They're so dull, and there's just no meat and potatoes anymore. And they're not warning people of what's around the corner. It's just the whole thing is just selling people hopium. It's what it is. And there's people that are, and I'm going to say this, not trying to offend here, but there's people that are really uneducated in scripture and in end times prophecy that are out there pretending to be teachers because they want to be part of some cool kid club online and be Mr. or Mrs. Popular. You know what I'm saying? I've seen it. And thank you, Bride of Christ, for all the prayers and the encouragement. Thank you, everybody, for the encouragement. Thank you, Lydia, and all the other people that are in the live chat just leaving encouraging comments, like James. We appreciate you, and Susan, appreciate you, and but so my point, and I'm sorry if I miss anybody here, because I'm, yeah, and you're right, BZ Evan, count it all joy. Got to count it all joy. Yeah, and see that, just like that kind of a comment, that kind of discourages me when it's like I'm going through major attacks too. It's not only you! Exclamation point. Like, that's, I'm not saying you're not going through it too. I'm not saying you're not going through it. But that, like, bums me out. Like, that kind of a mentality right there. That kind of a mentality. I don't need that around here. Like, I'm talking about what's going on, and I'm being vulnerable, and then people make it about themselves. Like, I'll ask for prayer, in the post section, and immediately there's people that won't even acknowledge that I'm asking for prayer and start talking about them. I'm not saying you're not all going through stuff. I know you are. All right. I know you are, but I'm just sharing what's going on behind the scenes here on this channel. I'm literally just sharing. And Evan, I agree 110%. And Evan, I also have to tell you, brother, you've been a massive encouragement too. And I'm sorry I forgot to call you today. I have got to call you. It's just been a stupid busy day. I'm so sorry, Evan. And I know you're going through a lot too, brother. And I'm here for you. And I know my intention was to call and pray with you. All right. Yeah, and you're right, Laura. This isn't a contest. This isn't a contest. I know each and every single one of you that are watching right now, or that we're watching, or that are gonna watch, are going through something too. All right, because they're the end times. I'm just sharing you with what I'm going through, and so it's heavy duty when you're in front of, I mean, with each video I'm making right now, they're getting anywhere from 1,500 to even sometimes 2,000 views or plus. You know what I mean? And so, I'll be honest with you. I hate being in front of a camera. I hate talking on camera. If it wasn't for End Times Talk, I wouldn't even own a computer. I promise. I wouldn't even have this thing. I wouldn't have an office, none of that stuff. I'm fine with just a cell phone and learning off of a cell phone. But the thing is that in order to keep this going and keep it fully operational, got to have a computer, got to have certain programs, got to do this, got to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a lot. And I was just sharing. I was not trying to play down anybody else's pain or sufferings. And in fact, I'm trying to stand up for you. I'm trying to stand up for you. So, with that all being said, again, so kind of summing up, what we've talked about today is just like, please be on the ball, be aware. And, you can go into my live section on my YouTube, and there's a video, and hold on, let me trying to think of the name of it. Dang. Hold on one second. I want to find the name of this. It's man, it's got to be the coming sleeper cell attack on America. This is not a drill. I think that's the one. It was 3 days ago, and it got like 936 views or whatever. But it's that one is I think where I break down what you can do, all right, to keep yourself safe in the possible attacks that are coming. And I think it's a matter of when. It's not if, it's when. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a month, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. And I know there's people out there that said, that are saying right now that the rapture has to happen this year, but it doesn't have to happen this year. And I remember when I first started this thing back in 2002, 2003, people said it had to happen this year, back then. All right. And so, the thing is that, for instance, like after that in 2024, people said it has to happen that year. And then you had people that said in 2025, I literally remember YouTubers, and please hear me out here before you get mad at me. But I remember there were plenty of YouTubers, YouTube watchmen, YouTube prophets that were out there saying that if the rapture doesn't happen in 2025, the math doesn't make sense. Well, of course your math doesn't make sense because God is outside of your math. God is outside of your math. All right? And so, it's just kind of crazy to me how they say stuff like that, and there's no apologies. There's no like, I'm sorry for leading you off track. I'm sorry for doing this. You know what I mean? And NAMP, how can you help people whose minds have been traumatized like this? First off, prayer. And second off, don't overwhelm them. Listen to them. Third off, understand that each day you might be talking to a different person, because most people that have been traumatized like that, they have split personalities. And you might be getting, we'll just say Johnny one day, and then you get Mark the next day. Usually the personalities are all aware of who you are. All right. Like I have a couple of people in my life that have split personality disorder that I work with. And all of them are very aware of, that I'm their friend and that I'm not out to hurt them. There's quite a few survivors. Like I have a survivor I work with. When she and I first talked, she was very skittish, very standoffish, rightfully so. You don't know who you can trust. And when I talk to her, she's like, Josh, how are you doing? Like she just lights up. You know what I mean? And because she knows I'm out to be there for her and not to hurt her. And these people have been so traumatized and so hurt for so long, and so, there are different things. And so be a listening ear to people that have been traumatized like this. And then slowly but surely, as you are there for them, you gain traction. And then you can share a little hint of, God loves you, sister, or God loves you, brother. God's going to help you. I do suggest, though, that when it comes to men that have been traumatized, it's best to let a man handle a man. And usually a woman should handle a woman, but I involve my wife very diligently in everything that I do, and things like that. And but you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation. You got to be careful of that stuff. But I have a million women that can vouch for me that said Josh has never talked to me in any strange way. Josh has never, made advances towards me. Josh is a respectable individual. I have a ton of people that would vouch for me. So, I'm not that type of individual, but there are men out there who are out to be perverts and weirdos. There are women out there who are out there to be perverts and weirdos. So, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. So anyways, on top of that, just be a listening ear. be a friend, and slowly but surely God is going to use you to help those people, and God will show you what to do, especially if you are spending time with God, um, spending time in the Word, and just let your light shine in their life. So many people have an agenda. They have this agenda, but really, just if you truly are going to be the love of Christ, just love them where they're at. And so, this is a way you can help people who are traumatized in a simple way without me telling you something that could cause damage. There are different ways to go about things, but you don't want to cause damage. So, take it easy, slow down. Don't be gung-ho and you better get saved or you're gonna burn in hell. You don't want to go about it that way. You know what I'm saying? That's just the wrong way to do things. And born again for Christ, I agree. I'm not worried, but it's like this jihad stuff, it's brewing. But anyway, so there's different things that we can do. Prayer is important. It's important to stand together. You know what I mean? Stand united, or we're going to fall divided. All right. And if you don't stand up for what you believe in, you're going to fall for anything. It says in the Bible that a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. Multiple times in the Word of God, it talks about being single-minded. It talks about being single-minded. You hear this saying that, oh, yeah, I have an open mind. What's up? You know what I mean? No, don't have an open mind. In this time and place in history, all right, you have to have a closed mind, all right? You have to protect your mind from outside influence. Like Evan Harmon is saying, all right, don't cease praying for yourself and others. It says in the Bible, never cease praying for the knowledge of the Lord's will and all wisdom and spiritual understanding. This is something I pray often over myself. All right. I don't usually pray for my aches and pains unless it's really bad. I don't usually pray for my depression. I really don't. All right. I struggle in praying for myself, but I pray for others. You know what I mean? And I do get depressed. Absolutely. I actually am manic depressive, but God's working with me on that stuff. I'm autistic. I'm bipolar. I'm manic depressive. I'm ADHD. I'm ADD. I mean, I have a plethora of issues. You know what I'm saying? I have PTSD. I was abused as a child myself. I was not abused just in one format. I was abused in a Northern Californian cult. And this is why I'm so adamant about exposing cults, about exposing child sex trafficking, about exposing these pedophile death cults and the different networks and how they operate. Because, I've been in a cult where, there's like multiple, there was, and I'll even tell you, in Chickasha, Oklahoma, and Lewiston, California, Phoenix, Arizona, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Kansas, New York, New York. There are multiple compounds all across the country that when this, and they have a new name now, but the original name, they tried to church it up, but it was called Christ Church of the Restitution, or what's known as the Trinity Institute, but it became the Christ Church of the Restitution. And on these compounds, there are many dead children that are buried. If people knew where those compounds were, and they took like that sonar, to the ground, that they use, and they walk over the ground with the sonar, they would find, the remains of many, many, many children that were buried on those compounds that were just nameless, man. And I was almost one of those children that were buried on one of those compounds. I don't talk about it a whole lot, but I even have documents from the cult that I grew up in, and it was just because realistically, my mother wanted to learn about Jesus. She got wrapped up in the wrong form of Christianity. Her heart was in the right place, but the doctrine was way off. It got crazy weird, and they actually forced my mom to be with my dad, and that's how I came to be. All right, is out of this Northern Californian cult, and they would take the kids from the parents, the ones that didn't die, and what would happen is they would ship them off to another compound, and they would turn them into kind of like the workforce that was slave labor. Okay, and then what would happen is they would turn the child on the parents and make the child hate the parents, and then the parents would never see the child again. Okay, and so this is the way this cult was operating and the things that they were doing. And it was absolutely child trafficking. There was child sacrifice that took place. I remember in Lewiston, in the compound near Mount Shasta, there was an octagonal building that was in the center of it. There was a furnace with pews around it. And I can only tell you the things that you can imagine that took place with this furnace, with all these pews around this black iron furnace. It was made out of iron. And then there's this main area. All right. And then on the outside of that, there's all these rooms all the way around this octagon. And I can't even begin to tell you the screaming and the crying that I would hear coming out of these rooms. They would take off their shoes. They would go into these rooms, and I would just be hearing my mom being tortured. And I was just a little guy. I'm sitting there hungry, and I'm starving. I hadn't eaten, and I'm having to wait outside by myself in this big giant room with this black iron furnace and these pews. And I would either have to take a nap while I'm hearing the screaming and the crying. I would knock on the door, and they would open the door, and I'd get screamed and yelled at. All right. And then that's not even counting the abuse that I went through. And then I got out of that, and there was a daycare provider in Vancouver, Washington. And this woman abused me. I was beaten until blood ran down my legs. I was forced to eat my own vomit. And then after that situation that went on for about a year or two, because I was being told that if I told my mom that she was going to kill my parents. And so I kept it from my mom. And I remember laying in bed one day with my mom, and, and the woman, I can't remember her name, and my mom would never tell me her name because she didn't want me to like enact out some kind of vengeance on her. And I forgive her to this day. And I pray she got saved. I pray she's in heaven. And if I go to heaven, I want to be able to be a light to other victims. And I want to say this publicly, that I forgive her. And if she came to know Jesus Christ as her Lord and her Savior, I'm going to put my arms around her neck, and I am going to hug her, and I'm going to give her a kiss on the cheek, and I'm going to say, I forgive you. All right. Because that's how you truly heal from this stuff, is you forgive your abusers. Okay. And you're talking to someone who was abused really heavily. But I remember I'm laying in bed, and I'm talking to my mom, and I said, Mom, you know how JoJo says I keep falling in the playground, and that's how I'm getting all these bruises and cuts? And my mom's like, yeah. And she kind of started to look shocked a little bit. All right. And, and I said, they're not from the playground. JoJo's hurting me, Mama. And I remember her face went white. I remember the look on her face when this happened. And then after that, I went, and I will say this publicly, there is a daycare center that is still fully operational. And on a side note, when I feel like it, when I can handle it, I'm investigating this daycare center in Vancouver, Washington, because it's still fully operational. And in that place, they abused me even after that. And then so after all this abuse in the cult, then from JoJo, then to this daycare center that I won't name because I don't want people to lash out at them. All right. Then there was 2 Native American women that took care of me, until I was a little older. And these 2 Native American women, Doris and Butterfly, they took the best care of me. They took the best care of me. There was no abuse, no nothing like that. And I finally understood what it was like to go to daycare or go somewhere and not be abused. All right. So there's a reason I'm fighting for what I'm fighting for right now. And I'm one of those people that I believe in order to expose this stuff properly, I want to go after the heads of the snakes that are involved in this stuff. All right. So I'm going after, and if you watch Mackinac Monarch 1 and 2, I go after the billionaires, and I go after the politicians, and I go after those who are funding these places where children are being abused. And this new island that I'm going after right now, and the documentary I'm working on right now, is no different. But this one, even the military industrial complex is involved in this thing. So I'm really up against the dragon here, but I'm going to slay that dragon because I know Jesus is with me on this thing. And he wouldn't, if God will bring you to it, God will bring you through it. And I'm a firm believer in that. And so, I'm trying to give people an idea of what I've gone through, why I am the way that I am, and what I've gone through, that has brought me here. I remember as a child, after we got out of that Northern Californian cult known as Christ Church of the Restitution, all right, I was sitting in my living room one day in Vancouver, Washington, where I grew up, and Remember the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons? It was called like the most amazing journey ever told, or the greatest story ever told, or something like that. And they were cartoons about the Bible. And there was like, one that was called the Nativity, and then there was one that was called the Miracles of Jesus. And I was watching this cartoon, the Miracles of Jesus. All right. And the thing is, all right, is that what I found out is that I got fired up inside to spread the gospel, right? And Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. It's not about Allah. It's about Jesus. It's about Yeshua HaMashiach, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the only true God, and his son, Jesus Christ, that died for the sins of the world. All right, that died for the sins of the world. All right, I'm telling you, he is the only true God. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Allah is a moon goddess. Islam was created by Catholicism. All right, you can literally find this out, that the Catholic Church started Islam. All right, and Allah is a female, and she is a moon deity, and it has nothing to do with what Muslims think that they're practicing. And that Allahu Akbar mumbo jumbo is nothing to do with any form of truth whatsoever. These people are murdering themselves, and they're murdering other people, and they're waking up in hell. There is no 72 virgins or whatever mumbo jumbo waiting for people that kill themselves in the name of Allah. It is only hell awaiting for them, and that is the truth. All right, and I'm saying that because there's someone that come in the live chat that wants to, start a bunch of mumbo jumbo. I don't care what kind of comrade, I don't care what kind of Antifa you're a part of. You're a joke. You don't scare me. Your Allah Akbar mumbo jumbo don't scare me. Your Antifa mumbo jumbo don't scare me. All right, I don't care. All right, and if any of you want to know where Islam comes from, look up Walter Veith, The Islamic Connection. All right. Muhammad's first wife was a Catholic nun, and he was conscripted by the Catholic Church to start Islam, and the whole entire thing, all right, is a joke. The whole entire thing is a joke. All of Islam is a joke, and all these people have been duped and fooled into believing a lie. Duped and fooled into believing a lie. So, go look up on YouTube The Islamic Connection by Walter Veith, and you will see more evidence than what you ever even thought was possible that Catholicism started Islam. It's the Catholic Church that's behind it. It is the black hand of the Catholic Church. All right? And so everybody needs to know that before I go on. But with what I'm saying here is that, when it comes to those who are abused, when it comes to those who have been traumatized, usually it's the people who have been abused and traumatized that expose the things where people have been being abused and traumatized. People that haven't really experienced it, they just don't get it. They just don't get it. But I know that people on this channel, people that are a part of this here, they know what's up. My audience is super educated. And it's not easy to have the wool pulled over the eyes of my audience here on YouTube or on X or any of that. So, I want you guys to know that God has this whole entire thing handled. Jesus Christ, the only way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is the only way to heaven. There is no other way to heaven. Not one. It's not by anything that you can do. It's not by works. It's by grace that we are saved. It is by the blood of Jesus Christ that we are saved. All right. It is all about Jesus and only Jesus. All right. And so you have got to know that. For anybody that believes in anything else, you will surely find a fate that you wish you hadn't. I'm telling you, there's a reason that the whole world hates Jesus. There's a reason why every religion out there denies Jesus and his deity. There's a reason why every movie out there bashes Christians and bashes Jesus and uses the Lord's name in vain, because they want to pull you away from it. They don't want you to know Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and that he is the only key to your entrance into heaven, into the pearly gates, into eternal life. It is only through Jesus. It is only through his blood. It is only through his sacrifice. And I will stand preaching that from the rooftops until my very death if I have to. All right? And the way you get saved is, it says, believe in your heart and confess with your mouth. All right? So say, Jesus. If you want to repeat after me, if you don't know who Jesus is, for the Muslim that came in here just a little bit ago, shouting Allahu Akbar, okay? This is how you get saved, my friend, all right? You say, Jesus, please forgive me for all my sins. Come into my heart. I believe that you died and rose again, and that you saved me from my sin. And that through you, I have eternal salvation, and only through you. And I give my life to you. I give my heart to you. I give my mind to you. I want to serve you the rest of the days that I'm alive on this earth. And I ask you, Jesus, to change me from the inside out and make me into the person you want me to be. And it's important that you believe that in your heart when you say that. Don't just say it, because don't be a fan, be a follower. All right? Be a follower, not just a fan. All right? So say those things, believe it in your heart, get baptized. There's people that are baptism deniers out there, okay? All right? It's important, all right, to understand that Jesus said, repent and be baptized. It doesn't matter what man's telling you what you should or shouldn't do. Jesus himself said, repent and be baptized. Do you need to be baptized to go to heaven? Probably not. But Jesus said to go do it. So don't resist it, especially because Jesus told you to go do it. Repent, be baptized, all right, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and get yourself a Bible, like an NKJV or a KJV are the best Bibles to get. All right. I would not trust too many other translations, that's for sure. And start to read the Word of God. Pray. Try to pray for 10 minutes 3 times a day. And when you wake up in the morning, pray. As you're kind of waking up, all right, the side teaching needs to stop. All right. I don't want to have to time anybody out. All right. The side teaching needs to stop. I'm the one teaching right now. If you want to teach, there's plenty of YouTube channels for you to go start, and you can go teach. But my point is, get a Bible, try to pray, even if it's twice a day, once in the morning, once at night when you're laying in bed, okay? And then if you feel a song in your heart, sing to God. Sing to him, okay? Sing to him and let him know how much you love him. And evangelize. Go out there and tell people about what Jesus has done for you. Don't allow the enemy to scare you away from what he has prepared for you. Like the people coming in here shouting Allahu Akbar. I mean, it does nothing. It absolutely is a meaningless saying. Meaningless. But everything I'm telling you right now, that's everything. That's the way to heaven. Only by Jesus and by his precious blood. And with that being said, may God bless you all. May he keep you. And please don't forget to go out and change this world in which you live.